done here. There's something special about Sandy Springs and in this school that I just want you all to know. And I also want you to know that you better take care of it. Let's don't blow it like Sidwell did. Well, anyhow, I suggested this, that we ought to have another school for... I suggested we ought to have this, I think it was in 1958, a business meeting. And you should have seen the response I got. Like, what's this guy up to now? Next day, I get a check for $100. Muriel Easton, who was a clerk in the post office out here, she didn't have a whole lot of money. This old Sandy Springs spirit had already touched $100 right off the bat. What would I do with $100? So we finally formed a committee, and some of the other people were caught for this fire. And next thing you know, we had 5 acres of land. We thought that Scott owns this whole big farm then. He's given us a few acres so we could maybe start a school. Asked her, why don't you give us something now so you can see the results of it while you're still living and not trying to look at it from the spirit world. So she did, and for the next several years she would give us an acre or two. By the time we were going to open, we had 55 acres of land. And during that interval, we had to raise some money, but here again, this spirit was permeating, going out. Some of our earliest contributors were people who had grown up here and hadn't been back for 50 years. This thing had touched them. They grew up here. A lot of the people who weren't even Quakers, never heard of it, came here to board us. They were touched. And we contacted some of these people whose their families had lived here, moved out. I don't know, some of you everything that she told me. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from William Worth saying, I and my family, excuse me, this educational institution, would like to contribute $25,000 to Sandy Springs School. Who do I make the checks out to? At that point, we weren't a real institution ourselves. We were the great long title Friends Center of the Baltimore Yearly Meetings Incorporated. No, pretty soon, after a couple of years, we got to be incorporated in our own right. Didn't have to make people sign this big right. Well, what I'm trying to get across now is the power of this spirit. Now, this school stands here because we believe in the power of the spirit to do things. It's not some vague dream of look, what we got to do is look. These are all spiritually built buildings. And I'm not afraid to admit that, because I know that's what happens. You can feel these things happen. You can feel people impressed. And let's see, I guess it was about 1959 or something. Mary Lil, my wife, and I were talking about, gee, well, I wonder if we can ever get a headmaster. If we get head of a school that doesn't exist. Guess what? We did. Sam said, where is Sam? Here he is. We went up to see Sam in Poughkeepsie, and he didn't have any more sense in the fight. So he said, sure, I'll come down here and be the headmaster of this school that doesn't exist. There's no place for him to live and no money to pay him, but he's going to be his son. Well, here again, I'm faith and belief in this power. I mean, you don't see the whole path laid out ahead of you. You try to do that, you won't get anywhere. One of the early members of the board said, you're crazy, you got to have $1 million to thank before you even think about this school. I said, thank you very much. We don't need you on this committee. They don't need you. Well, by the time Sam came on board in the fall of '60, I guess, we had Scott House built, and we had $60,000 left over. So, being radical like we were, what they had Sam, let's go for another big business. So we designed a very sympathetic architect who was going to go on with us clears out here. Designed Moore Hall in the late fall of '60. And we didn't get started on Moore Hall until about March of '61. We were supposed to open in September of '61. So guess what we did? We had more and more money coming in, but we did have to borrow enough to finish Moore Hall. And you can believe that only cost $180,000. Scott House only cost $35,000. Wow. What a difference it makes. I'm not going to keep on rambling, but there's several points that I want to keep driving home. One is the specialness of this school. I firmly believe it is the most friends of any of the friend schools. So what I want to do is warn you. That's not going to go on by itself. We've got to really work at keeping this special friend school. One of my favorite quotes, someday I'll have this something letter that should be read with no glasses. Every good and excellent thing stands moment by moment on the razor edge of danger and must be fought for. Now, you might not like that word fought. You might say struggle for or work for, but you know what I mean. And I'm serious, very serious about this. It's a tender plant, the spiritual business school. Very tender. We don't take care of it long. I'm going to keep on reiterating this as long as I can, because I know the dangers, the tendency to drift, the tendency to be influenced by people with a lot of money, say, come in and want to do something in their name, they want to endow something. I mean, you've got to watch this thing constantly. And this is one of my concerns, that we're just so special now, and we just can't lose this aspect of this school. Very special, spiritual quality. Now, my theory in starting the school was to be sure that the students knew about this. That they be made aware of the standard equipment that we all come with, this spiritual part of it. It's a vital part. And you can call it anything you want, I don't care what you call it. There's something of God within us, as quick as you could call it, the light within. It's there, it's positive, and can be used, and here's evidence. Right here, what do you want? So, and another thing we need to be very careful about is not getting too big. This concerns big, I better not say what I really think. Small is beautiful, big stinks. I won't put that on a flag. I might put small is beautiful, big is not so beautiful. Another thing I think we've got to be aware of, and we talk a lot about being led of the Spirit, waiting, and I'm very concerned that we not outrun our guide. Let's don't let intellect, money, or anything else lead us off in some direction that we haven't really taken the time to see whether this is really the way we want to go. Feel this guidance. So, that's in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. Very helpful. I had thought of it as we have hopefully that the Spirit will help us through all the problems.
That's take it easy. Be sure that that's what you want to do. And watch this baby. Look at George School. I mean, George School, I love it. Like I say, it's largely responsible for this school because of my experience there. But look at it. It's a country club. And what are they doing now? They're starting a $35 million raising competition. watch it, that's all I'm telling you.
We have some faculty. In addition to Sam, who is, you would say, the second on board, right? Perhaps we have some faculty who've been here almost as long, and Ari Preuss and Doug Smith and Annie Worley are three faculty who've been along with us here a long time, and it's wonderful that they could come tonight and tell us what they have seen in the development of the school, the changes in direction, the special things that have happened that, with their perspective of 30 years plus, they remember and been charted the way. And I don't know whether you've had in mind a special order for.
Okay.
Okay, Eric.
Okay. I'll make it very brief. Make it very brief and sort of anecdotal, really. When Stephen asked me about it, down here, the quickly scanned my mind, and there's been all these emphasis on community. The articles and so on. It's really good. That really, touched me. Those of you who were subjected to sociology in college and graduate school probably remember the two big fat German words they give you: Gemeinschaft versus Gesellschaft, which is community versus society at large. And that's kind of relevant here because when I came in '67, and I happened to be working at the airport in New York, and while I was going to graduate school, I was working for Eastern Airlines, and Anne Friedel came popping up in front of me, and I hadn't seen her for years. And they said, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I'm down to Maryland, a little school and so on. You ought to come down and check it out." And I said, "No." And then she wrote me back and said, "Look, I'm doing mostly French, and I want you to teach some German." And I just finished my PhD coursework, and I was going to come down here for archival work, and I said, "Hey, that's great, I'll come down." And so I decided to come down in February, and I came here in a blizzard. It was, and I waited at the Greyhound station in Silver Spring, and finally Tony Brown came slithering out, and we came back in about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, was in February, and the sun was just sort of setting between after the clouds had, all the sun was going away, and when the sun was right on the view, while the February was just kind of more. And there was a lot of snow, and there was little lights that popping up, and it was like really enchanted. And I said, I knew right away I liked this place. And then we had supper down in what is now the lounge, and there was this lady who really scared me a little bit because she was voice of supper. She really bossed everybody around. It wasn't her girl, and she didn't get to know everybody. I was really scared. I was scared over the whole first year. Until I figured out that she was probably the biggest heart around me, but for the next 20 years, the woman I came mostly back for her. She was just wonderful. I love her. And then that night they called up study hall, and they played a crazy game out in the snow. I forgot what it was, Super Duper, Frazzy Ram, or Nerdy Ball, I don't know. Anyway, I really liked that. Everybody got in the act. And then there was this big crisis. Somebody had just been kicked out the day before, and this girl was sweeping. Everybody was huddling in, they were all touching around. This girl was sort of like carried on everybody up, and I thought, this is terrific. Okay, and then the next day I had this discussion with Tony Brown, and I, he had sort of a knack for the nebulous, and I didn't know whether I was hired or not. So I thought, well, I'll come back in the fall, And then in the summer, I was visiting a friend in June. I was visiting a friend of mine, a monk in upstate New York in a monastery, and that was really wonderful. They were Benedictines, and they were chanting, and for a while I said, I don't know, I didn't really know whether I was hired or not, so I thought, well, maybe I'll give this a try, because it was just, fantastic, these people, they were intellectual, they worked when they sing and so on. And then, this was the beginning of June, and suddenly the news came that, the Arab countries had invaded Israel, as Israel had countered that, the Six-Day War. And suddenly I was torn between, being this monk, or maybe going to a Quaker school, and also, my ethnic background, doing something for Israel. And I said, everybody was, New York was flooding over there and signing up to help Israel. So for a while I was, saying maybe I should do that, but I didn't, and I came here, and it was kind of strange because the community here was very, very pacifistic and peaceful, and the country wasn't. The Washington Post, the New York Times, they were all, we were in Vietnam at the same time, and they were, they were really still punching for it. And here we were having, vigils, and we were having, I remember either the first or second year we were scheduled to play St. John's Military Academy, whatever it is there on Military Road. And I went there in the Gizzy, the little band with about about 6 guys, but all the other guys were up, protesting the arms bazaar. And so I came over and the coach said, "Where's your team?" And all these guys were walking off their gigs, And I said, "They're all protesting the war, And I said, "Good." And then finally the bus came out, and the scragglers, a bunch of guys came up, and with headbands, and I mean, we looked bad, but we beat them. And I was a pretty child. Then, a little later, I took a bunch of kids and a class to Blair High School, where I.F. Stone was arguing someone from the State Department. This guy from the State Department was insisting that the Vietnam was going to be the North Vietnam. They had no chance 2 or 3 years from now, their body counts away, they were losing people, there's no way that they would keep that. And I have Stone was disputing every fact, boom, boom, boom. And we all heard that we were trying to be put by the FBI, and by that time we all knew that we were the cookie little school that was going to get in trouble with the authorities. And then, I think a year later, when Clifford, the guy had a little trouble with the banking recently, his grandchildren were two very attractive, talented people who were going to school here. And after he had, you've probably seen the Vietnam tapes, when he had, rallied everybody and counting what are we doing, are we going to win the Vietnam or not? And nobody could give him an answer. Then, he brought that to LBJ, and they said, look, I can't really pursue this war. And then LBJ, fired him, and he came and made a speech here, in Clifton Hall. And it was a special deal. It was going to be off the record and so on. But immediately, NBC, all the guys were going to come and going to do this. And Tony said, no. All these people said, no, there will be nobody here. This is for friends of people and for parents and so on, and we will not have any press here. Well, people kept pushing, and so he said, okay, John Hogan, you stand by each door at Clifton Hall and make sure nobody else comes in. And everybody always speaks like this, He was giving this wonderful speech on how we shouldn't have, we shouldn't be in Vietnam, it's a mistake and so on. And I was standing by this door, and I said, there were all these operetta flats and so on. I see this little guy taking off. So I just sort of nosed you, and I grabbed the nose. He said, hey, what are you doing there? So I come on outside. And this guy was from the Washington Times, or whatever the one, the Herald, or whatever, yeah. And I said, what's your name? Who are you? He said, I'm Super Goodman. What's your name? I said, I don't know if you tell you my name. And he said, you were told not to be, you have theory, you're not supposed to do this. He said, okay, just go home and, So I gave the note, and the gentleman finished his speech, and it was pretty scary, but, what we're getting into, and the government shouldn't be doing it. Anyway, I gave the notes to Thorny. And Thorny being Thorny, this guy weaseled it out of him, got his notes back, and published a big article, everything that, that was being said, plus that some foreign accented Gestapo type was, was interfering with the free process of the press. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is here that this community that was very much at variance with the general tenor of the country, of the society at large. Okay? And I think after all, we really took sort of pride in that we were, we were a real minority, all along, but people stuck to it, and that, we were really concerned with this issue. The other thing that was really surprising when I came here was that there was no smoking. I'd never smoked in my life except in college when we had to smoke a pipe for show. And so I really liked you. I mean, it was awful. And, and yet, I know some students said, look, don't take this easy, we're going to stop as soon as, we get out of here, because we're just doing it obvious cost, again. Except, they were using nicotine and loudens and both. So again, we were sort of vanguard. In alcohol countries, everywhere we go, you don't get to smoke anymore, not smoke anymore. So again, there was something that this was in it. Then also the first year, we had a reunion this spring about the 69 class of 69. They still call me Mr. Preuss. And it just started because the first 2 years I was here, everybody was Mr. The faculty, said, I couldn't not, for the first 2 years, I could not get Tony over my lips. I had to say Mr. Brown, and Friedel. I could not use the vowel form in German. It was really. That reminds me also, a lot of people still were being and vowing around here in those days. You don't hear that anymore. That has passed. The Quaker around. Anyway, I went first to Kentucky, and then was directed Bladen camp. And so I hired a lot of the students here to be, counselors. And there it was all, first names. When we came back, it sort of slowly percolated, and then boom, they said everybody was on first name basis here, which is a real startling, thing to most people. All right, that's just begins from the past, the things that have changed and, how we went about it. The other thing I just want to say, maybe is that the thing that has really rapidly changed in the last few years is the use of computers and how that has, especially for Western Civ, for the myths and so on, it has brought everything up just, why there's a percentage, because that used to be very, very helpful. It just actually gets us on to crank out a good paper. Now they do it, and it's just improve the quality overall. And that's it.
Thank you.
Welcome, Nick.
And, you know, you should say what you're teaching, what you have taught, and how your role has changed.
Okay. Yes, I came here. Okay, and I came here to teach German, and then of course when I saw the soccer goals, that sort of persuaded me to stay here too, because I had, in New York, I was wrong. Anyway, it was fun to stay here. Then I really my major on history. I was going to do my research, which I never got to do, in history, and then I taught Spanish, and I did a lot of the overseas program where you take a country and then study it, and then go travel there. That's been really a lot of fun. And try to, soccer myself.
Well, I'm Doug Smith, and I teach biology. I came here to teach biology and gymnastics, and taught gymnastics here for quite a few years. But my first year teaching was in a large public school in Ohio, and the school did a lot of things that I didn't think were quite right. I went to a public school, a very large school. They paddled their kids, and kids got in trouble. They went to reform schools, and there was very little dialogue going on between the kids. My wife said that she went to all the principal Barnesville. It wasn't like that when she went to school. So I, around about way I found out and he took me as a teacher. So I came out during saying, sorry, and it was pretty nice, very loud, everybody was so friendly. I was asked to teach a class, so I went and I had a monkey. And I took my monkey class, great prop, right? And it was great. There were kids hanging out of the doors looking in, and Margot Brown looking in. Here's Hitman, Spot White, taking time off to look into the class. And my interview was a little different too. It was in the headmaster's house. And halfway through the interview, this very energetic man comes in the house, burst into the interview and asked Thorny a question. I don't remember what it was. And Thorny said something to him. And he said, well, my question for this guy is, can he play Nerly ball? Now, I think this is probably the most important thing that happened in that interview, because I could have been very tempted to say, sure, but that might be kind of dangerous. But the good thing I did, since Nerly ball was only played in preschool, I guess, at that point. And I said, what the heck is Nerly ball? And because Thorny just looked at me and said, well. Luckily, well, of course, at that point, I got the full description. And at the end of the interview, I wasn't sure whether I'd been hired or not. And there were and I don't believe I signed a written contract for, I don't know how many years. 72. Well, sports were a little different. We're talking about Nerds and Ball. We didn't have the gym. We didn't have Clifton. We didn't have a lot of facilities we have now. And more than half our kids were boarders. So I think the decision was that there should be a lot of outdoor activities and a lot of intramurals. And that's when Mary, I guess, started these strange games, Nerds and Ball, and Grab the Man, Spring the Door, Freedom Crab. I left a few out. But and of course, the last team, played team in the Nerds Ball here. Well, every afternoon or every several afternoons a week or evenings a week, there would be kids out there playing these strange games that nobody else played. But some of that same quality that Ari was talking about in regard to the Vietnam War happened here, because every kid had an opportunity to play something they hadn't played before. And we get kids out there playing that had very little sports ability, and they're having a great time. My gymnastics was a little different when I first came here. We didn't have a gym. We had no equipment. We had gymnastics in the and we put them on a bomb cart and drive down with the tractor to the behind the tennis court. We scored something on the Or if it was a rainy day, we would take the chairs down in the dining hall, which Barry had early taken the tables down so that they could have chorus, and I would take the chairs down so that we could have gymnastics, and that even made the mattress duffier. And then we would put the chairs back up and the tables so we could eat dinner. So the business office at that point was about the size of a closet. I think it held up 2 tables, or 2 desks, and enough room for people to sit behind. No purchase orders. It was, there was no PR or admissions department, and the class sizes were quite small. I taught 1 biology class, advanced biology class, and an active science class that first year. I guess I would like to say something in the same, I guess, the same warning group might have. Class sizes have been small, and in the class and on campus, teachers have had time to give individual attention to the kids, and that's always been true. I think it's still true today. Danger of class sizes getting larger, we'll be able to do that, and we want to do that.
Thank you, Dad. Really fun to hear. And why don't you move over to this chair right here?
I actually thought I'd come sit up there with big guns.
Okay,
Come
come
sit
on.
up there with big guns.
That's good.
You may.
And he said, Sam, if you ever have a school, I'd love to work with you and for you. And Sam said, well, I might, but it doesn't exist yet. So when I graduated from college, we went off and found a job at Westtown, which is a wonderful place to be a first-year teacher. And we said, that, we really want to only be here a year. And then Sam gets to school, we're going to go work with Sam. Westtown being Westtown, I don't think believed this, actually. I don't think they believed that we would leave Westtown if they liked us, which they did, in fact, to go to this thing that they got the name wrong and called us their little sister all the time. But we did, and Sam hired me to teach biology because I was teaching biology at Westtown. Now, I was teaching biology on 1 year of college biology. And I was terrified I was going to have to set up this science department without basically not knowing a darn thing. And I was saved when we hired Sally Girls, who knew a lot, and I got shifted over into math. And I've been there ever since, one way or another. So those are, I guess the first time I came to Sandy Spring was March, and there were the road was muddy, and I think it was raining, and I think the Moore Foundation was there, and that was all. And Scott House and Sam were there. That was good enough, wasn't it?
Thinking about science now, can you tell what biology teaching was like that first year?
I didn't teach it. I can tell you what math
Right
teaching is
over.
like.
You were at all.
Sally taught it. Sally taught it. My first classroom was Tom's office. And I must admit that last year I remembered that a little bit.
You had the whole space, right? The whole office, right?
Your whole room.
Right, all 12 by 12.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Nan's classroom was a little next door, Francis's 2 spaces. That was the art room. Anyway, the other thing that came to mind was this thing about how little Scott House cost. I just want to say that my salary that first year was $2,800. So, it's all relative, guys. I'm afraid the beginning of this is going to sound a little negative. It's not, I don't mean it to sound negative, but I get here in the fall, and we've changed a few things. And inevitably, the students say, the school isn't what it used to be. And they mean it's for the worse. They never point out the things we've changed that are for the better. For the worse. This year, they can't sit in their cars in the parking lot. So, the school isn't what it used to be. And my thought always is, which school are you talking about? Which used to be are you talking about? So I thought I'd talk about some of the used to be's. And they're going to sound negative. And the reason they're going to sound negative is because I think from the point of view of the students now, they would see these as things they probably don't want to go back to. Many of them were not negative. wonderful. It wasn't a college prep school. My memory is that we specifically did not have it be a college prep school, isn't that right? We wanted it to be an academic education, but we wanted to educate students who didn't necessarily want to go to college as well as people who did. There was a period, well, for quite a long time, the women all had to wear skirts, and when we got into the miniskirt era,